She was ignored by everyone in the classroom. Then, in one instant, she became a hero. I witnessed something that day that still gives me chills whenever I think about it. Before I continue, if stories like this inspire you, subscribe to the channel now, so you don't miss the next ones. It was an ordinary Tuesday at Lincoln Elementary School in a small town just outside of Detroit. The kind of day where nothing special was supposed to happen. The playground was filled with the usual chaos of recess. Kids running, screaming, laughing. The popular kids dominated the best equipment while others found their own small territories. And then there was Lily Thompson, 8 years old, with worn-out shoes and clothes that were clearly hand-me-downs. While the other kids had fancy lunch boxes with cartoon characters, Lily always carried her sandwich in a reused plastic bag. Her dark brown hair was always tied back in a simple ponytail. No fancy clips or headbands like the other girls. She wasn't poor enough to qualify for special programs, but not well off enough to blend in with the majority of students. The invisible middle, too easy to overlook. I was the new teaching assistant, only 3 weeks into the job. I noticed Lily because she was always alone. Not actively excluded, just forgotten. She spent most recesses walking the perimeter of the playground, occasionally stopping to pick up interesting rocks or leaves. Sometimes she'd sit on the far bench, watching the other children play. She never complained, never caused trouble, the kind of quiet child that overworked teachers are secretly grateful for. That day, the air was crisp with early fall, and leaves were beginning to change color. The playground smelled like dirt and fallen leaves. Kids were more energetic than usual after being cooped up the previous day due to rain. I was on playground duty, scanning the area while sipping my lukewarm coffee. Most teachers hate playground duty, but I found it fascinating to watch the complex social dynamics of elementary school children in their natural habitat. Then I noticed Amber Wilson, the complete opposite of Lily. Amber had everything: designer clothes, the latest sneakers, and parents who volunteered for every school function. She was the unofficial leader of the 3rd grade girls, always surrounded by a small entourage. Amber wasn't mean, exactly, but she had that casual indifference toward less fortunate kids that she'd clearly learned from somewhere. She and her friends were playing on the jungle gym, performing increasingly complicated stunts for each other's approval. "Watch this," Amber called out, preparing to show off a new move. The other girls gathered around, eyes wide with anticipation. Nobody noticed Lily, who had wandered closer to watch. It happened so fast. Amber was attempting to swing across 3 monkey bars at once when her hand slipped. She fell awkwardly, her foot catching in the bars, twisting her body as she came down hard on the ground. There was that moment of silence that always comes before a child starts crying, that intake of breath. But what happened next is why I'm telling this story. Before any adult could react, before Amber's friends even processed what happened, Lily was there. This quiet, invisible girl moved faster than I thought possible. She dropped to her knees beside Amber, shielding her from the curious stares of the gathering crowd. "Don't move," I heard her say in a surprisingly authoritative voice for an 8-year-old. "My mom's a nurse. You need to stay still until a grown-up comes." By the time I reached them, Lily had positioned herself to block the sun from Amber's eyes and was speaking in a calm, quiet voice, telling Amber to breathe slowly. "It's going to be okay. Just look at me, not at your leg." Amber was still in that shock phase before pain fully registers. Her eyes were wide with fear, locked onto Lily's calm face like it was a lifeline. The crowd of children grew, their usual playground noise dampened by concern and curiosity. "Everyone step back," I said, kneeling beside the girls. "Give her some air." I could see that Amber's ankle was already swelling, likely sprained or worse. As I began to assess the situation, I was amazed at how Lily had positioned herself. She was both comforting Amber and creating a human privacy screen. "She fell really hard, miss," Lily whispered to me. "I think she hit her head too. My mom says that's important to know." Another teacher had already called the school nurse, who arrived with the principal. As they took over, Lily started to slip away, retreating back into invisibility. I gently caught her arm. "That was quick thinking, Lily. Where did you learn to help like that?" She shrugged, suddenly self-conscious with adult attention focused on her. My mom works double shifts at the hospital. She teaches me stuff sometimes. Then, with concern still etched on her small face, is Amber gonna be okay? If this story has touched you so far, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because there are other real and emotional stories that you won't want to miss. The school nurse confirmed that Amber had a sprained ankle and a slight bump on the head. Nothing serious, but she needed to go to the hospital for an X-ray just to be safe. As they were preparing to call Amber's parents, something unexpected happened. Amber reached out and grabbed Lily's hand. "Don't go," she said, her voice small with pain and fear. "Can she come with me to the nurse's office? Please?" The principal looked surprised but nodded. I watched as Lily, still reluctant in the spotlight, walked alongside the wheelchair as the nurse pushed Amber inside. Just before they entered the building, I saw Amber look up at Lily and say something I couldn't hear. Whatever it was made Lily smile, a real smile that transformed her usually solemn face. The playground resumed its normal chaos, but something had shifted. I noticed several of Amber's friends looking after Lily with newfound curiosity. Children have a natural sense of justice, and they just witnessed something important. During lunch period, I supervised the cafeteria and was surprised to see one of Amber's friends approach Lily, who was sitting alone as usual. "Is it true your mom's a nurse? That's so cool. My dad's a lawyer, but he doesn't save people or anything." Lily looked up, clearly startled to be addressed by one of the popular girls. Yeah, she works at Detroit General. That's why you knew what to do for Amber, huh?" That was really brave. The conversation was awkward, halting, but it was happening. By the end of lunch, 2 more girls had joined their table. Lily looked bewildered by the attention but was slowly opening up. Later that afternoon, Amber's mother came to pick up her daughter's things. She stopped by the principal's office where I was dropping off some paperwork. Her eyes were red-rimmed from crying. "Are you the assistant who was there when Amber fell?" she asked me. I nodded, prepared for the typical parent reaction, looking for someone to blame, questioning the supervision. Instead, she hugged me. "Thank you. And that little girl, Lily?" The nurse told me what she did. Her voice broke. "The doctor said if Amber had moved wrong with that fall, it could have been much worse. That child knew exactly what to do." I wasn't surprised when Mrs. Wilson asked for Lily's family contact information. The principal hesitated, citing privacy policies, but Mrs. Wilson was insistent. "Please, I need to thank her parents." And double quotes. "Though only the principal and I were in the room, I'd like to help them." Discreetly. Amber told me Lily wears the same 2 outfits every week. No child should have to. Not when we have so much. The next morning, I arrived early to prepare the classroom. There was an envelope on my desk with Lily's name on it. Inside was a handwritten note from Amber and a handmade friendship bracelet. I couldn't help but smile at the simple but significant gesture. When Lily arrived, I noticed something different. She walked a little taller, her eyes more alert, taking in her surroundings rather than avoiding them. Children's social hierarchies can shift in an instant, and yesterday's invisible girl was today's person of interest. Several kids greeted her on her way to her desk. During morning announcements, the principal did something unusual. She called Lily to the front of the class. "Yesterday, one of our students demonstrated extraordinary kindness and quick thinking during an emergency," she said, her voice crackling over the ancient PA system. "Lily Thompson's actions helped keep a classmate safe when she was injured. This is the kind of character we value at Lincoln Elementary." The class erupted in applause. Some kids even stood up. I watched Lily's face flush with embarrassment, but also something else. Pride. Maybe for the first time. When she returned to her seat, the boy next to her, who had never spoken to her before, whispered, "That was really cool what you did." At recess, the transformation continued. Lily wasn't suddenly the most popular girl in school. Real life isn't a movie, but she was included. A group playing Foursquare called her over. She hesitated, then joined them, a cautious smile on her face. I overheard 2 teachers talking in the hallway later that day. "That Thompson girl, can you believe it? Never says a word in class, and then she handles an emergency like a trained paramedic. Shows you never can tell with kids. The quiet ones surprise you. By week's end, Lily had been invited to her first birthday party. One of Amber's friends was celebrating at the local pizza arcade. I saw her mother dropping her off, a woman with the same dark hair as Lily, looking tired in scrubs, clearly having come straight from a hospital shift. But the pride in her eyes as she watched her daughter run to join the other kids was unmistakable. That Sunday, I was grocery shopping when I ran into Mrs. Thompson in the produce section. I introduced myself, and her face immediately lit up with recognition. "Miss Parker, Lily talks about you all the time." She shifted her weight, adjusting her purse strap in a nervous gesture. "I wanted to thank you. Lily's different now." In a good way. She's talking more at home, telling me about friends. Her voice lowered. She's had a hard time since her father left. 3 years now, but kids feel these things deeply. I nodded, suddenly understanding Lily's self-contained nature a little better. "And now this Amber's mother ... double quotes." She trailed off, looking both grateful and uncomfortable. "She offered me better paying shifts at the private clinic where she's on the board. I didn't want charity, but..." "It's not charity if they're getting your skills in return," I said gently. She smiled. "That's what I decided too. Better hours, closer to home. Lily won't have to be alone so much." The following Monday, Amber returned to school on crutches, her ankle in a walking boot. She made a beeline for Lily's desk, her entourage of friends trailing behind. To everyone's surprise, she hugged Lily fiercely. "My doctor said you did exactly the right things," she announced loudly. "He said you're a natural and should go to medical school someday." Lily blushed but didn't shrink away. "Maybe I will," she said, with a new confidence in her voice. As the weeks passed, I watched with fascination as Lily's place in the classroom ecosystem evolved. She wasn't immediately absorbed into Amber's popular circle. Again, real life isn't that simple, but she had found her voice. She participated more in class, raising her hand to answer questions. Her science project on basic first aid won second place in the school fair. Teachers who had barely noticed her before now commented on her insightful contributions. Most importantly, she was no longer invisible. She had friends, not just Amber, but a small, diverse group of kids drawn to her calm, kind presence. I'd see them at lunch, heads bent together over books or trading card collections. One afternoon, about a month after the incident, as everyone now called it, I was supervising art class when I noticed Lily helping a boy with Down syndrome who was struggling with scissors. She showed him a different way to hold them, her manner patient and matter-of-fact, without a hint of condescension. When he successfully cut out his paper star, they exchanged a high five. The art teacher noticed too. "She's always helping that boy," she whispered to me. "Never makes a big deal of it, just quietly shows him how, then lets him do it himself." It struck me then that Lily had probably always been this way, observant, kind, ready to help. The difference was that now people were finally seeing her. Near the end of the semester, the school counselor organized a Community Heroes Day, inviting parents with various careers to speak to the students. Mrs. Thompson, wearing her hospital scrubs, gave a presentation about emergency first aid. The children were fascinated, especially when she let them practice bandaging techniques on each other. Lily beamed from her front row seat. Afterwards, I overheard Amber tell her friends, "Lily's mom is so cool. She saves lives and stuff." The transformation wasn't just with Lily. I noticed Amber had changed too. She was still popular, still at the center of her social circle, but there was a new awareness in how she treated others. She made a point of including kids who were usually left out. During group projects, she would partner with students others avoided. Small changes, but meaningful ones. One day, I found her defending a first grader from some teasing fourth graders. "How would you feel if someone laughed at you when you were scared?" she demanded, hands on her hips, every bit the righteous defender. When she saw me watching, she shrugged with an embarrassed smile. "Lily says we should stand up for people who need help. It's just the right thing to do." The school year continued, and what had started as a dramatic playground moment became part of the fabric of daily life. Lily was no longer defined solely by that one heroic act, but by who she was every day, quietly competent, unfailingly kind, with a core of strength that had always been there, waiting to be discovered. But there was more to the story than just a schoolyard transformation. The ripples were spreading outward in ways I couldn't have anticipated. Mrs. Wilson, Amber's mother, called me one evening about 2 months after the playground incident. She sounded excited, asking if we could meet briefly before school the next day. I agreed, curious about what she wanted to discuss. When we met in the empty classroom the following morning, her enthusiasm was palpable. "I've had this idea," she began, "and I wanted to run it by you first since you see the kids every day." She explained that her husband's company had a community outreach fund that supported local initiatives. What if we started a peer safety program at the school? Kids teaching other kids basic emergency response. Nothing fancy, just age-appropriate skills. I immediately thought of Lily. "That sounds wonderful." "Exactly." Mrs. Wilson clasped her hands together. Lily could help lead it. Her mother could advise. It would give children confidence and practical skills, and, she lowered her voice, it would especially help kids like Lily shine in ways that our regular curriculum doesn't always allow. The principal loved the idea. Within weeks, the Junior Safety Squad was formed, with Lily and Amber as founding members. Mrs. Thompson volunteered to come in once a month to teach basic skills, how to recognize when someone needs help, when to get an adult simple first aid. The program was completely voluntary, but to everyone's surprise, nearly half the third grade class signed up. I watched from the doorway of their first official meeting. The children sat in a circle on the library floor, faces serious with the importance of their new responsibility. Lily, who once would have disappeared into the background, stood beside Mrs. Thompson, demonstrating how to check if someone is conscious. "You have to say their name loud," she explained, "and tap their shoulder, like this. If they don't answer, that's when you yell for help." The kids practiced in pairs, taking turns being the patient and the responder. There was giggling, of course. They were 8-year-olds after all, but underneath was a current of genuine engagement. They wanted to learn this. They wanted to be able to help. Amber, her ankle now fully healed, was Lily's most enthusiastic supporter. "Lily knows everything about this stuff," she told anyone who would listen. "Her mom's teaching her so she can be a doctor someday." The Junior Safety Squad soon became one of the most popular activities at Lincoln Elementary. They created posters for the hallways about basic safety. They took turns wearing special red vests at recess, ready to help with minor scrapes or to alert teachers to more serious issues. The school nurse reported fewer panic reactions to playground injuries. Kids were learning to stay calm and assess situations. One day, a second grader with a severe peanut allergy accidentally ate a cookie with nuts. A member of the safety squad recognized the signs of an allergic reaction from their training and immediately got the nurse. The principal later said the quick response had potentially averted a dangerous situation. The local newspaper ran a small feature about the program, with a photo of Lily, Amber, and the other founding members in their red vests. "Student Safety Initiative makes big impact at Lincoln Elementary," read the headline. The article quoted Mrs. Thompson saying the program was giving children confidence and community responsibility. Lily brought the newspaper clipping to class, her eyes shining. "My grandma in Florida wants 5 copies, she said shyly when I commented on it. It was the first time I'd heard her mention extended family. The program continued to grow. Other teachers noticed changes in the participating student, increased confidence, better communication skills, more empathy toward peers. The 4th and 5th grades wanted to start their own squads. The principal began receiving calls from other schools asking about our innovative peer safety program. It was remarkable how something that had begun with one child's instinctive kindness on a playground had grown into a community-wide initiative. But the most profound changes were still happening on the individual level. Lily and Amber formed an unlikely but genuine friendship. They were different in almost every way, from family background to personality to interests, but they'd formed a bond that transcended the usual elementary school social boundaries. One afternoon, I overheard them talking as they worked on a class project together. "My dad says I should have my birthday party at the bowling alley this year," Amber was saying. "With laser tag and everything. You'll come, right?" Lily nodded. That sounds fun. What are you doing for your birthday? It's soon, right? Lily hesitated. Mom says maybe we can have pizza and watch movies. Just small. I expected Amber to dismiss this as boring compared to her elaborate plans. Instead, she said, that sounds really nice. Could I come? We could make blanket forts. My mom never lets me do that because she says it messes up the furniture. The look of surprise and pleasure on Lily's face made my heart squeeze. The thing about children is that they live so intensely in the present. The social hierarchies that seem set in stone can dissolve in an instant, reformed into new patterns based on authentic connection. Amber and Lily would probably never have found their way to friendship without that dramatic catalyst on the playground. But now that they had, their different worlds were expanding to include each other. Mrs. Thompson started taking weekend nursing shifts at the private clinic, where Mrs. Wilson served on the board. The new schedule meant she could be home with Lily after school most days. I noticed the change immediately. Lily came to school with more elaborate hairstyles, clearly done with maternal care, rather than her own 8-year-old attempts. Her lunch improved from just a sandwich to include fresh fruit and the occasional homemade cookie. One Monday, Lily came to school wearing new sneakers, not designer brands like Amber's, but clean and colorful and clearly chosen with care. My mom got a bonus, she explained when a classmate complimented them. Small changes, but significant ones. The Thompson household was still solidly working class, but some of the financial pressure had clearly eased. Meanwhile, something interesting was happening with Amber. Always materially privileged, she was now developing a social awareness I hadn't seen before. She started noticing things, which kids never had snacks during break time, who wore the same clothes too many days in a row, whose parents never showed up for events. I overheard her asking her mother if they could bring extra cupcakes for the class holiday party, because some kids don't have ovens at home to bake stuff. The matter-of-fact way she said it, without pity or superiority, made me realize she'd been learning from Lily just as much as Lily had been affected by her. Around Thanksgiving, the school organized a food drive. Amber approached me with an idea. Instead of just collecting cans, could we make real meals for families, like everything they need for Thanksgiving dinner in one box? Lily said sometimes people have to go to different places to get help, and it's hard if they don't have cars. I was stunned by the insight. We took the idea to the principal, who loved it. The Complete Meal Initiative became the most successful food drive in the school's history. Parents who might have tossed in a couple of canned goods instead contributed entire meal components. The local grocery store got involved, donating turkeys to complete each package. The junior safety squad helped organize everything, sorting donations and assembling the meal boxes. They created handmade cards to include with each package. I watched Lily carefully writing in hers. Everyone deserves a happy Thanksgiving. From your friends at Lincoln Elementary, Mrs. Wilson appeared at my elbow as I supervised. Amber told me this was Lily's idea, she said quietly. About making complete meals. I nodded. She understands what would actually help. Mrs. Wilson's eyes were thoughtful. Before all this, I would have just written a check to a charity. It wouldn't have occurred to me to think about whether people had transportation to multiple food banks. She watched the children working together. I'm learning a lot from my daughter's friendship. As the holiday season progressed, the impact of this unexpected friendship continued to ripple outward. The Wilson family invited the Thompsons to their lavish Christmas party, a prestigious annual event attended by local business leaders and medical professionals. Mrs. Thompson was initially reluctant, feeling out of place, but Amber and Lily were so excited about the prospect of a fancy party together that she agreed. I heard about the party when school resumed in January. Lily couldn't stop talking about it. The massive Christmas tree, the professional Corollas, the chocolate fountain. But what she mentioned most was how her mother had been offered a position managing nurse, training at the clinic where she now worked part-time. Mum says it's because she met important people at the party who liked her ideas about emergency response procedures. Lily explained proudly. Opportunity, so often determined by social connections rather than merit, had found its way to the deserving Thompson family through an unlikely new friendship. The school year continued, and the changes I observed went beyond just Lily and Amber. Their example had shifted something in the classroom culture. I noticed less rigid social grouping, more cross-pollination between the usual cliques. The invisible children, there are always a few in every class, were a little less invisible. Not because of any heavy-handed adult intervention about inclusion, but because the kids themselves were noticing more, reaching out more. In February, the Junior Safety Squad expanded their mission. Inspired by a classroom discussion about different types of safety, they started addressing emotional well-being too. They created a buddy bench on the playground, a designated place where kids could sit if they were feeling lonely and wanted someone to play with. Squad members took turns checking the bench throughout recess to make sure no one sat there long without being invited to join a game. The school counselor told me it had reduced playground conflicts by nearly 30%. When kids feel seen and included, they act out less, she explained. It's the invisible ones you have to worry about, the ones who feel like no one would notice or care if they disappeared, I thought. About Lily, who had once been one of those invisible children. Now she was not only seen, but was actively helping others be seen too. As winter turned to spring, I received news that I'd been accepted to a graduate program in educational psychology. A dream I'd been working toward while serving as a teaching assistant. I would be leaving Lincoln Elementary at the end of the school year. While excited about my future, I felt a pang at the thought of not seeing the continued evolution of what had started that full day on the playground. In early May, the school held a community impact assembly, recognizing various student-led initiatives throughout the year. The Junior Safety Squad received special acknowledgement, with the principal announcing that the program would expand to all grade levels the following year, and that several neighboring schools were implementing similar programs. Lily and Amber were called to the stage together to accept a certificate of appreciation. Standing side by side, Lily in her carefully ironed but simple dress, Amber in her designer outfit, they represented a bridge between worlds that rarely connect in meaningful ways. The audience of students, teachers, and parents gave them a standing ovation. Afterward, I found Lily standing somewhat apart from the crowd, watching the celebration with a thoughtful expression. I asked her how it felt to see the program she'd inspired grow so big. She considered the question carefully before answering. "It feels good that people aren't getting hurt as much," she said finally, "and that kids know what to do when bad things happen." The simplicity of her response struck me. Despite all the attention and accolades, her focus remained on the practical impact, helping others, preventing suffering. That was the essence of who she was. Later that month, the Parent-Teacher Association held its annual spring fundraiser, usually a staid affair with a silent auction and catered finger food. This year's event had been reimagined by a committee co-chaired by Mrs. Wilson and Mrs. Thompson. They had transformed it into a community health and safety fair, open to the entire neighborhood, not just school families. The local fire department brought a truck for kids to explore. The hospital sent nurses to demonstrate CPR. Police officers taught bicycle safety. And at the center of it all, the Junior Safety Squad had their own booth, proudly demonstrating the skills they'd learned throughout the year. I watched Lily patiently showing a kindergartner how to bandage a stuffed animal's injured paw, her face serious but kind. She guided the little girl's hands with gentle confidence. Nearby, Amber was explaining to a group of parents how the buddy bench worked, her natural eloquence making the simple concept sound revolutionary. The fair raised record funds for the school while providing valuable information to the community. It perfectly symbolized the partnership that had formed between the Wilson and Thompson families, combining Mrs. Wilson's social connections and organizational resources with Mrs. Thompson's practical expertise and community health knowledge. As the school year wound to a close, I had a final conference with each student's parents to discuss their progress. Thompson arrived precisely on time, dressed in professional scrubs. She was coming directly from her new management position at the clinic. "Lily has shown remarkable growth this year," I began, "both academically and socially. Her reading comprehension scores have jumped 2 grade levels, and her participation in class discussions has increased dramatically." Mrs. Thompson nodded. a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. She's different at home too. More talkative, more confident. She even asked to try soccer this summer. She leaned forward, lowering her voice slightly. After her father left, she just folded into herself. I was working so many hours, just trying to keep us afloat. I worried about her all the time, but I didn't know how to help her beyond just surviving day to day. The junior safety squad has been incredibly good for her, I said. She's found her voice through helping others. It's more than that, Mrs. Thompson replied. It's being seen, really seen, by her classmates, by Amber and her family. She hesitated. By you, too. You noticed her when she was trying her hardest to be invisible. I was touched by her words, though I knew I couldn't take credit for the transformation. Lily had always had that inner strength and compassion. She just needed the right circumstances to reveal them. My conversation with Mrs. Wilson the following day struck a similar chord. Amber used to be so superficial, she admitted with surprising candor. All she cared about was clothes and parties and being the center of attention. My husband and I worried about it, but we didn't know how to change it without seeming like we were criticizing her. She smiled, shaking her head slightly. And then she falls off a jungle gym and suddenly develops empathy and social consciousness. Life is strange. Friendship with Lily has been good for her, I observed. It's been transformative, Mrs. Wilson corrected. Not just for Amber, for our whole family. We've had conversations about privilege and responsibility that we never had before. Real conversations, not just abstract charity talk. She looked at me intently. Do you know Amber told us she wants to be a doctor now? She says she and Lily have a plan to open a clinic together someday. I smiled, imagining the two girls making this pact, completely unaware of the complex educational and professional journey such a goal would entail. But why not? Dreams have to start somewhere. The last week of school arrived, filled with field days, yearbook signings, and classroom parties. The students were restless with summer anticipation, their attention spans shorter than usual. But amid the chaos, I noticed Lily and Amber huddled together during free time, heads bent over a notebook, intensely focused on whatever they were planning. Curious, I stopped by their desks. What are you two working on so seriously? They exchanged glances, a wordless communication passing between them. Then Amber spoke, her natural confidence making her the spokesperson. We're making a summer safety guide for kids, for when they're home alone or at the pool or whatever. Mom's helping us print copies, Lily added. We're going to give them out on the last day of school. I was amazed. Their initiative had long outgrown any adult guidance, taking on a life of its own through their creativity and commitment. On the final day of school, true to their word, they distributed their handmade safety guides, colorful, illustrated booklets with clear, child-friendly instructions for various emergency situations. They'd even included a page about emotional safety, with suggestions for dealing with feeling scared, sad, or alone during the long summer days. As students collected their belongings and said goodbye for the summer, I observed the interactions with the bittersweet awareness that I wouldn't be returning in the fall. The classroom community we'd built together would continue without me. The story would go on, with new chapters I wouldn't witness. I saw Lily and Amber exchange friendship bracelets, an updated version of the one Amber had given Lily months earlier. This time, they'd made matching ones, complex patterns that must have taken significant time and attention. As the classroom emptied for summer break, I found myself standing alone, taking in the space that had witnessed so much transformation over the year. The colorful artwork on the walls, the reading corner with its worn cushions, the row of plants on the windowsill that the children had nurtured from seeds, all would remain. But the unique chemistry of this particular group would never exist again in quite the same way. I was packing up my personal items and Mrs. Thompson appeared in the doorway, a small gift bag in hand. Lily wanted to give you this, she said, crossing the room to place it on my desk. She was too shy to do it herself with all the other kids around. Inside was a handmade card and a simple braided bracelet, similar to the ones the girls had exchanged but with blue and green threads. My favorite colors, though I couldn't remember ever mentioning that to Lily. The card read, "Thank you for seeing me, Love Lily. Simple words that brought tears to my eyes. She's never had a teacher who really noticed her before, Mrs. Thompson said quietly. Not like you did. I wanted to explain that it wasn't just me, that Lily had blossomed because of a complex alchemy of circumstances, friendship, opportunity, and her own innate strength. But sometimes the simplest explanation is the one that matters. Being truly seen by another person can change everything. I'm going to miss her, I said instead. Both of them, actually. The whole class. Mrs. Thompson smiled. We'll keep in touch. After all, you're part of this story now too. Summer passed in a blur of graduate school preparation. I moved to a new apartment closer to the university, registered for classes, and began the next chapter of my own education. Occasionally, I received emails from my former colleagues at Lincoln Elementary with updates about the school, and especially the expanded Junior Safety Squad, which now included students from every grade. In late August, just before the new school year began, I received an invitation to a Labor Day barbecue at the Wilson home. The girls insisted. The note from Mrs. Wilson read, "They want to show you their summer project." I was touched to be remembered and curious about what Lily and Amber had been up to. I arrived at the Wilsons' sprawling suburban home on a perfect late summer afternoon. Their backyard was transformed for the occasion. Strings of lights hung from trees, lawn games set up on the immaculate grass, and a long table laden with food. What struck me immediately was the mix of guests. The Wilson social circle had typically been other affluent professionals, but today's gathering included a diverse group that clearly spanned different socioeconomic backgrounds. I spotted Mrs. Thompson chatting comfortably with people who looked like hospital colleagues. Several families I recognized from Lincoln Elementary were there, including some whose children had been part of the Junior Safety Squad. Amber spotted me first, running across the lawn with Lily close behind. Both girls had grown over the summer, their faces slightly leaner, hinting at the preteens they would soon become. They wore matching t-shirts with a logo I didn't recognize, a simple red cross inside a child's handprint. "Miss Parker, you came!" Amber exclaimed, while Lily offered a more reserved but equally warm greeting. "We have to show you our summer project," Amber continued. "Dad helped us with the website part, but we did all the content ourselves." They led me to a table set up under a canopy, where a laptop displayed a professional-looking website titled Kids Helping Kids, Safety for Everyone. The site featured videos of children demonstrating basic first aid techniques, printable safety guides, and resources for parents about child-appropriate emergency response training. "We made all the videos with Mom's phone," Lily explained proudly. "My cousins and Amber's neighbors helped demonstrate, and my dad's company paid for the website hosting as part of their community service budget," Amber added. "We already have over 300 subscribers to our newsletter." I scrolled through the site, amazed at what they had accomplished in just a few months. It was comprehensive, age-appropriate, and genuinely useful. The kind of resource I would have loved to have as a teaching tool. "This is incredible," I said sincerely. "You've created something that could help children all over the country, not just at your school." Their faces glowed with pride. "We're presenting it at the school district meeting next week," Amber said. "The superintendent wants all the schools to know about it." Lily, still the quieter of the pair, but now with a confidence that hadn't existed a year ago, added, "We want every school to have a safety squad. Kids listen to other kids sometimes better than grown-ups. And," Amber said with dramatic emphasis, "we've been invited to present at the State Education Conference in October. Real teachers and principals from everywhere will hear about our program." Mrs. Wilson approached, carrying drinks for the girls. "They're becoming quite the public speakers," she said with an affectionate smile. Amber's always been comfortable in the spotlight, but Lily's natural authority on the subject wins people over immediately. I chatted with the girls a while longer before they were called away to help serve dessert. Mrs. Wilson stayed behind, her expression turning more serious once the children were out of earshot. "There's something else you should know," she said. "Something wonderful that's come out of all this." She explained that she and her husband, inspired by the success of the Junior Safety Squad and the friendship between the girls, had decided to establish a foundation focused on peer-to-peer safety education and community building in schools. "We're calling it the Playground Heroes Foundation," she said. "We've secured initial funding to pilot the program in 10 schools across the district next year, with plans to expand statewide. The foundation would provide training, materials, and support for schools to establish their own versions of the safety squad. More importantly, it would create paid positions for parent coordinators, with Mrs. Thompson already hired as the lead program developer. She's leaving nursing to do this full-time," Mrs. Wilson said. "Her experience combined with her natural teaching ability makes her perfect for it. And the salary," she paused meaningfully, "well, let's just say Lily won't be wearing hand-me-downs anymore unless she wants to." I was speechless. What had begun with one small act of kindness on a playground had grown into something that would potentially impact thousands of children and create meaningful employment that recognized Mrs. Thompson's value and expertise. "We want you to be part of it too," Mrs. Wilson continued. "Once you finish your graduate program, we'll need someone with your background in educational psychology to help develop age-appropriate curriculum and assess outcomes." The offer caught me completely off guard. I'd been focused on my academic path, assuming my connection to Lincoln Elementary and its students was now part of my past. The idea that I could remain connected to this remarkable story, perhaps even help shape its future chapters, was both exciting and deeply moving. The rest of the afternoon passed in a pleasant haze of conversation, food, and the simple joy of seeing how the unlikely friendship between Lily and Amber continued to flourish. I watched them moving through the party together, sometimes including other children in their orbit, sometimes huddled in private conversation, but always with that special connection that had formed in a moment of crisis and deepened into something meaningful and lasting. As evening approached and guests began to leave, I found myself sitting on the patio with Mrs. Thompson, watching the sunset paint the sky in vivid pinks and oranges. "I never imagined any of this," she said, gesturing to encompass not just the beautiful backyard, but everything that had unfolded over the past year. "I was just trying to raise a kind daughter while keeping our heads above water." "You did more than that," I said. "You raised a daughter who changed her entire community." Mrs. Thompson smiled, her eyes reflecting the sunset. "That's the thing about children. We think we're shaping them, but really, they're shaping the world. We just have to give them the chance." Before I left, I sought out Lily to say goodbye. I found her and Amber sitting on a garden swing, poring over what looked like planning notes for their upcoming presentation. "I just wanted to say how proud I am of both of you," I told them, "and to thank you, Lily, for the beautiful bracelet." Lily looked up, her face serious. "You were the first teacher who ever asked me questions and really listened to the answers," she said simply. "That matters." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. In education, we talk a lot about curriculum and assessment and instructional strategy, but sometimes the most profound teaching happens in the simplest interactions, the moments when we truly see a child and let them know they matter. "Will you come to our presentation at the conference?" Amber asked eagerly. "We're going to wear matching blazers. Mum says we need to look professional." "I wouldn't miss it for anything," I promised. As I drove home that evening, I reflected on how a single moment can alter the trajectory of multiple lives. If Amber hadn't fallen that day, if Lily hadn't been nearby, if her mother hadn't taught her basic emergency response, the intricate tapestry of connection and change would never have been woven. The state education conference arrived on a crisp October morning. I arrived early, finding my way to the auditorium where Lily and Amber would be presenting. To my surprise, the room was already filling up, educators from across the state, apparently eager to hear about this student-led initiative that had garnered so much attention. Mrs. Wilson had secured a front row seat for me. "They're backstage with Sarah," she whispered, referring to Mrs. Thompson by her first name now, a small but significant indicator of how their relationship had evolved into genuine friendship. Nervous but ready, the superintendent of the district introduced the presentation, explaining how what had begun as one child's quick action on a playground had developed into a district-wide program that was already showing measurable impacts on school safety and social cohesion. And then Lily and Amber walked onto the stage together. They did indeed wear matching blazers, navy blue over simple white shirts, looking both professional and endearingly young. Amber, naturally confident, took the lead in greeting the audience, while Lily operated the slideshow they prepared. But as they moved into the substance of their presentation, something remarkable happened. Lily's voice grew stronger, her natural expertise on the subject matter overcoming her usual reserve. She explained the core principles of their program with clarity and conviction that belied her 9 years. Kids want to help, she told the room full of educators. Sometimes they just don't know how. When we teach them simple ways to make a difference, they feel powerful instead of scared. Amber nodded emphatically beside her. And when kids feel powerful in good ways, they don't need to be mean or show off. They can just be heroes in regular life. The simplicity and truth of their message resonated through the room. These children had intuitively grasped principles of social-emotional learning and peer support that educational theorists spent careers developing. After demonstrating some of their basic safety techniques with the help of a few volunteer children from the audience, they concluded with a video compilation showing junior safety squad activities from schools across the district that had already implemented the program. The final image was a split screen. On one side, Lily kneeling beside Amber on the playground last fall. On the other, dozens of children in safety squad vests helping younger students in various ways. The caption read, "From one moment to a movement." The audience rose in a standing ovation. I looked around at the faces of veteran educators, many with decades of experience, all visibly moved by what these 2 young girls had accomplished. This wasn't just cute or precocious. It was meaningful, evidence-based peer intervention that was making a genuine difference. After the presentation, there was a reception where Lily and Amber were surrounded by administrators and teachers eager to bring the program to their own schools. I hung back, watching with pride as they answered questions with the poise of much older students. Mrs. Thompson found me by the refreshment table. "Can you believe this?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. A year ago, Lily was practically invisible at school. Now she's teaching educators how to run a program she helped create. "She was never really invisible," I said. "She was just waiting to be seen." The Playground Heroes Foundation officially launched the following month with a mission to implement peer safety and support programs in schools nationwide. Its founding board included educational experts, medical professionals, and child development specialists. Both Mrs. Wilson and Mrs. Thompson served as executive directors, their complementary skills and networks creating a powerful leadership team. I accepted their offer to join the foundation after my graduate studies, developing assessment tools to measure the program's impact and helping create developmentally appropriate curriculum for different age groups. It wasn't the career path I had initially envisioned for myself, but it felt right, a perfect application of my educational training to a cause I believed in deep. Lily and Amber, now in 4th grade, continued as the program's most effective ambassadors. They appeared in educational videos, spoke at school assemblies, and contributed ideas for new initiatives. Their friendship remained strong, transcending the social categories that typically define elementary school relationships. The program itself evolved beyond basic emergency response to include conflict resolution, emotional support, and community building. Schools that implemented it reported decreases in bullying, improved attendance, and stronger sense of community among students. 3 years later, when Lily and Amber were finishing elementary school, the Playground Heroes program was active in over 500 schools across 12 states. A feature in a major educational journal called it one of the most promising peer support initiatives of the decade. Research studies were beginning to document its effectiveness in promoting not just physical safety, but emotional well-being and social cohesion. At the Foundation's annual celebration that spring, I watched Lily, now a poised 12-year-old, address a room full of donors, educators, and program participants. She still spoke with the straightforward simplicity that was her hallmark, but there was also a quiet confidence that came from years of seeing her ideas taken seriously and implemented successfully. Everyone talks about big moments that change everything, she said. But sometimes it's the small moments that matter most. One person noticing someone else needs help. One kid standing up when it would be easier to walk away. One teacher asking a question and really listening to the answer. She looked directly at me as she said this last part, and I felt my heart swell with emotion. I'd long since stopped being her teacher in any formal sense, but the connection remained, that mutual recognition of seeing and being seen that forms the basis of all meaningful human relationships. Later that evening, at a quieter gathering of just the core team, Amber proudly announced that she and Lily had been accepted into a competitive middle school science program focused on biomedical research. First step toward medical school, she declared confidently, while Lily nodded beside her. Their childhood pact to become doctors together apparently still intact. Mrs. Thompson, who now directed statewide training for the foundation, raised her glass in a toast. To noticing what matters, she said, and to the courage to act on it. As we all echoed her toast, I thought about how profoundly that single playground moment had altered so many lives, not just Lily's and Amber's, but those of their families, their school community, and now thousands of children who would never know the original story, but would benefit from its legacy. That's the remarkable thing about kindness and courage. They create ripples that extend far beyond the initial action, touching lives in ways we can never fully anticipate. One small hand extended in a moment of need had grown into a movement that was changing schools and communities across the country. If this story has touched you, subscribe to the channel and comment below which part moved you the most. And before you go, there's a recommended video right next to this one that will give you chills. Watch it now. What lesson did you learn from this story? Has a small act of kindness ever changed your life in an unexpected way?